Hi, I'm Robert Lindstrom, founder of Provision Financial Planning, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these government programs available as a result of the COVID-19 coronavirus. There's actually several different regulations, I guess, or acts that were passed by Congress. So I'm just going to talk about all of them as if they are this one stimulus package type of deal. But there are separate ones. The first one that probably affects pretty much everyone is you don't have to file your tax return or pay your taxes until July 15th, which also allows you an extra 3 months to make IRA, Roth IRA, or HSA contributions. So if maybe you didn't have the funds necessary to make that by April, you may by July. So keep that in mind. Another provision in the acts is you don't have to take a required minimum distribution in 2020. Many of you are probably going to do it anyway, but if you don't have to, it's probably a good idea not to. And for tax purposes, it may make sense to take that amount that would be a RMD, the amount that you would be taking, and convert it to a Roth. And that will hopefully keep your tax liability over a multi-year period a little bit more level. So that's a planning opportunity there. There's also the stimulus checks, the actual checks that are going to be coming out. And it's kind of a neat way they did this. So it's actually a tax credit for 2020. So they're going to send the check based on either your 2018 or 2019 return, whichever one they have, on the date they send them. And we don't know what date that is. But they're going to send the check from there. When you do your 2020 tax return, it's going to calculate what you should have gotten. And if the stimulus check you get is less than what you should have gotten, you will still get that extra amount. Here's the neat part for some of us. If you get more than you should have based on your return, you don't have to pay it back. So there's a little bit of planning opportunity here. Maybe if your 18 return has you over the phase out amount, but 19 doesn't, you could quickly file or maybe hold off as well. So if you haven't filed your 19, you've got a little bit of thinking to do. There's a brand new component for charitable giving. Generally, you have to itemize your tax return on Schedule A to get a deduction for charitable contributions. But there is now it's called an above-the-line deduction for charitable gifts where you don't have to itemize, but it is capped at $300. So if you are giving any money, just save those receipts. You'll get a little bit of tax benefit for doing so. For those of you with student loans, you can, through September, not pay them. This is for federal student loans. So if you've refinanced, this doesn't apply unless your lender has some sort of program. But for federal student loans, through September, you cannot pay them, and it's 0% interest, so nothing will accrue. So if you're pursuing public service loan forgiveness, probably a good idea to stop payment on these because these next 6 months do still count towards that. So you're not delaying it in any way, and your goal is to pay as little as possible anyway. For those of you who are not pursuing public service loan forgiveness, then you can pause these payments and continue back up in October, or you can keep paying them. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of a personal decision. You pay them off a little quicker if you continue to pay because the interest rate is at 0. But for anybody who wants to pause them, you have to do it. Otherwise, they'll continue being paid. So you have to call your service provider and get them paused. For those of you who generally would pay a penalty to access money in an IRA, so that's people under 59 and a half for the most part, then you can, if it's a reason due to coronavirus, you can take out up to $100,000 out of your IRA, and then you can spread the tax over up to 3 years to minimize the tax impact. You still owe taxes, no penalty, still owe taxes. And here's the neat part. You can pay it back. So you can take out up to $100,000 as long as you put it back within the next 3 years. You go back and amend your tax return, and you basically got a loan for 3 years out of your IRA. So probably a good idea to work with an advisor who knows taxes, or someone who can walk you through this to make sure you're taking advantage of it the right way. if you have a 401k, so that previous point was on IRAs. If you have a 401k, they changed the loan provisions a little bit. You can now take up to 100,000. Used to be 50. You can also take up to 100% of your balance. Used to be 50, and you can delay the payments for a year. So, hopefully you're in a position where you don't have to take a loan from your 401k, but if that's the only option you have, it's a little bit more favorable than it used to be. All of this stuff, there's a lot more out there, but these are the most common. But I could do a whole webinar, an hour-long webinar on the business owner options available to them, because a lot of it has to do with payroll. I think one's even called the Payroll Protection Act. But there's other stuff like disaster loans that are available, and I'm not going to really get into it. But basically, if you're a business owner, and this is also includes sole proprietors, independent contractors. It's not just what we think of as quote unquote business owners. Your homework is to absolutely know what's available to you, because there's some wonderful programs that are brand new that could be absolutely essential to your business. And the last piece, because this applies also to business owners that would be considered independent contractors or gig workers, unemployment insurance has been adjusted. It was very difficult for self-employed people to get unemployment insurance in the past, but it is no longer. You are now covered. So if this has had just a detrimental impact to your livelihood and you're self-employed, you now are eligible for unemployment, as long as you're eligible otherwise, as long as you are unemployed and can qualify for the benefit. So I hope this was helpful. A lot to go over. I didn't go into it in too much depth, but I hope it was helpful, and I will talk to you next time. Thank you.